Okay, you guys, it's 5:35. The only person that was going to come tonight that is not here is Pam. So why don't we go ahead and get started? Molly Pierce and Lainey Taylor were not able to make it. So we have a couple different people at the table. So let's do some introductions. It's been a while anyway since we got together. I guess you all know who I am. I'm Kathy Hodges.
June Bosworth, process consultant.
Barry Johnson, principal at Benton.
Barry's taking over for Tyron Sumi, who resigned the committee. So he's a high school principal, and that's what she was. So I'm pleased that he would join our committee.
John McCarthy, community member.
I'm Julie Gaddy. I'm the principal at Lindbergh Elementary School.
Brad McAnally.
Kevin Jones, Riverview Middle School.
Tim Miller.
I'm Katie Schwartz-Drowns. I'm subbing in for Lori Fordyce tonight, and I teach speech, debate, and theater at Central.
Sally Thorpe, Central, ELA, 9th grade.
Tom Brockett. Howard Harrison.
There we go. So Howard's a former administrator. Been retired many years now, right? Kind of nice, I guess. Just a reminder of what this is the last big task that we have to do. We're going to be looking at the rest of the stipends. We've already been through the coaches ones. These are the administrative stipends, the academic stipends. The idea is to look them over and recommend how maybe we could use them best or what we should do with them best in the coming year. We have some stuff to look at that the administration has presented to the board and has talked with me and confer about that we should take a look at. And what we want to get, what our goal is here is to restore the community's faith in the school district's use of the money. So we need to have something fair, something works for everybody, so that our teachers and staff, administrators too, have something they can work with, and our community is satisfied that we've worked out something that seems reasonable, not too weighted one way or the other. So I thought the best way to start would be to look back over those stipends. You guys all have those, I think, in front of you. And Doug was not able to be here tonight, and he's the one who knows them all best, of course. So I spent a lot of time meeting with him over the last 2 days to make sure that I have down what everything is. I have lots of notes. So we'll go ahead and start where it says district coordinators. The ones above that we've already looked over as part of the coaches stipends. So the curriculum coordinators are not just people who sit around and write curriculum, but sort of folks that are, I don't know, some of you guys that are in the schools maybe can explain it better than I can. And they're like they oversee, or they're the person that you go to for certain departments. There's like Kevin Griffin oversees the music.
He's my coordinator. He does, he's secondary fine arts, and he spends a lot of time, he's in charge of all of our funding as far as if we need resources and things like that. And he also spends a lot of time advocating for us. I know at Central we were recognized as a Kennedy School of the Arts in music, and so he's instrumental in advocating, making sure that there's equity amongst the schools, that we have enough teachers to support the classes, that we are fully utilizing and taking advantage of every opportunity that our groups can have. And so I think they're a good example of what the curriculum coordinators do.
They have that for not just fine arts, but for PE, for the core groups, which would be English language arts and social studies and science and math. Just for every section, there's a curriculum coordinator, and then there's one person who does all of the elementary core subjects. So instead of a different one in elementary for the different places, she does all those core subjects. And then there's still PE for all of elementary and that sort of thing. So they do write curriculum, but that's only done every 6 or 7 years, and they do all these other jobs in addition to that. So that's what the core curriculum, the curriculum and the core curriculum people do. The core curriculum stipend, the $5,000, is in addition to the regular curriculum coordinators, because the core people have a lot of pressure on them to, you know, with No Child Left Behind and all that stuff, came a lot of work to make sure things were in a certain way, and especially with the Common Core now, there's a lot of work with that. So it takes a lot of planning, a lot of curriculum writing and stuff. So that's why that bonus stipend was allotted to those folks. Somebody want to explain the instructional coach?
Are you thinking we're going to go through all these and then come back and visit on them, or what's
Well,
kind of the
I
format?
thought that if you want to talk about them as we go, we can. It's not my decision. I want it to be our decision. So.
It would be easier for me if we talked with them as we went.
Oh, okay. So
And,
these.
and I'm not looking to discuss dollars at the moment, just
Mhm.
questions maybe. about-
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead. What questions?
Can we get a list of how many curriculum coordinators there are and how many core curriculum coordinators there are, and maybe list the positions?
Well, I asked Doug how many curriculum coordinators there were, and he said there are about 12 to 15. And I guess some of those are the core ones.
So if they're a curriculum coordinator, are they getting core as well?
The core people will, yes.
So if they're in the 1 to 3 years, they're getting $7,700 is what you're saying?
Yes, that's right.
I'd like to see something on paper maybe for the next meeting that would identify, not necessarily names, but the positions and the responsibilities and how it's broken out by schools, or if there's maybe overlapping, or just kind of identifies the responsibilities a little bit better.
And
But I don't
so
want to speak for the group either, that's just me.
they also get, at the high school level, they get an extra plan period. Oh, in theory, they're supposed to. And now sometimes that doesn't happen because of number demands, but in theory, they're supposed to get an extra plan time to execute their duties as coordinator. And Kevin, our coordinator, he only teaches halftime. So he has
Yes, they do
and
also
halftime
teach.
curriculum.
And if it's an on-year for curriculum revision, I believe some of the curriculum coordinators only teach halftime.
So
That's
it's a-
right.
so it's a-
They teach a certain number of periods. Normally there are 8 periods, and they teach 6 periods. That's how it's
Well,
supposed to
we
work.
teach 6. We
And then
have
they go
8.
down to 4 during a writing time.
We have 8 periods a day, but we teach 6 because we have a planned period every day.
So is there a sliding scale on the salary if they're teaching 8 versus 6 versus 4?
Well, if you teach 8 periods, you're getting 2 1/8
Typically,
additions to your
high
contract, but
schools-
nobody does that.
Typically, a high school teacher only teaches 6 classes. And so a curriculum coordinator would teach 5, and then if it's their writing year, they would teach 4. So they would get...
Because they spend the rest of the time writing the curriculum.
Or
Overseeing
executing
it
their
being-
duties as curriculum coordinator.
So this wouldn't be what we would call overtime in the regular world, right? This is during the course of the day?
Yes.
It is during the course of the day, but remember they have other duties that they do, and this curriculum writing is an addition. I am not the
But
specialist.
they
on
leave
this.
basically the same time everybody else does.
No, I think they're supposed to stay longer. They're
I think they have
Yeah,
the same contract.
Yeah, they have the same contract that everyone.
They have the same contract we do.
I don't know if things have changed or not, but it used to be that those people would organize and meet with various groups of teachers concerning, so it is overtime, concerning curriculum development and that sort of thing.
Are the teachers there at that same time though?
No, when you-
Yes, but they're not there, they wouldn't be there all the time, because you may be meeting with more than one group. But it's true, sometimes the teachers are there too.
Can we ask
Yes.
a question to these people?
Sure. In
How
fact, I
often
see-
do you meet with the curriculum coordinators? Because I know you're...
We meet during the school day,
Yeah.
about 3 or 4 times a year.
Okay, so I know that that's part of their responsibility is to meet on a regular basis with, for us, the director of secondary education, because they sit and they say, okay, well, we need to replace this class with this class, and they kind of go over, you know, what curriculum's working, what we need to adjust, what resources we need, and things like that. And that all falls under their umbrella.
Other discussion about the curriculum coordinators?
Do they also plan their PD? Is their responsibility?
They help with it.
Because I know that the secondary level, they need a department as far as across the
And
district.
PD stands for?
Professional development, sorry.
They're a big part of that.
And they are also still teaching. So they're on the teacher's salary schedule. Okay, so let's move on to the instructional coach. This position, somebody want to explain that one?
Sure. The instructional coach is a professional developer who works directly with teachers to implement curriculum and the changes that come through state and local level demands, assessment demands and curriculum demands, to work beside teachers to improve them and provide them hands-on professional development.
When I asked about the instructional coaches, I learned that it's helpful to have their feedback because they are not their evaluators, so they don't do their evaluations, and they can give them feedback to improve, especially probably new teachers. And people are not forced to have the instructional coaches come and see them and give advice to them, but people who could use them do.
Well, I think the model has been in place here for several years. It was really born out of the board goal to recruit and retain highly qualified teachers. And when we looked and interviewed teachers leaving the district, one of the things that they said was, we need assistance, we need professional development, we need people right beside us working with us. This is a very complex job. So that was where it originally came from. That was the original. And it's a very common model. I mean, it's not like...
There's probably 12 to 15 instructional coaches, Doug said. Are they in every school, or do you know, Sam?
Elementary share instructional coaches, and at the secondary level, there is one in every school.
They teach some too.
Yeah, they teach.
Our instructional coach has been, she has been a crucial piece of implementing our new teacher evaluation system, and especially with first and second year teachers, because it is so overwhelming. The new evaluation system that to journal and reflect and all kinds of things, and she has been instrumental in helping to implement that. And I think that, I think you hit the nail on the head with why the instructional coach is important, is because they're not your evaluator, and they're a good person to go to. They sit in those administrative meetings and they listen to what the administrators say. And then, if you're a first year teacher and you don't want to walk up to your principal and say, I didn't understand, that instructional coach is there for you. And they're your person to kind of hold your hand and help you to survive it.
I just don't know if we need to give them $2,000 more. They're already having to run these contracts, so.
They are on the teacher's salary schedule,
Correct.
and they get that $2,000 they get currently. I guess those guys, would they be a 9-month employee or 10? 9?
9-month
So then that's
They also help plan PD.
a little more than $200 a month that they get for that.
It's as much as coaching a sport. A sport's a hornball.
Anybody else about the instructional coach? Administrative intern. These are people who want to move into administration, typically come from our teacher group and assist a principal at one of the schools and learn sort of how to do that. They don't cost as much as a vice principal, but they learn the technique and sort of operate in that role.
How many do we have now? We only have them in
There are
elementary.
only 3 that we ever have. Are there?
Well, there used to be middle school, but they're not anymore. So.
Yes, it used to be that middle schools didn't have assistant principals, they had administrative interns. And now they all have assistant principals.
So there's a max of 3 in the district?
Yeah, well, generally that's what Doug said, that they haven't ever had
Well,
more
there
than
is
3.
now. Yeah, I guess.
maybe an action item for the board, and that is the process involved with adding administrative interns. If there's 3 now, is that something
That we would want more of?
or is that something that to be 5 tomorrow or 8 a week from now? Or
I think it kind of goes, I don't know, I don't know exactly, but it kind of goes on school size and demand at schools. Like you've had a ton of kids in your school for quite a few years, and so she needs extra help there.
Yeah, 2 days a week, we have an intern.
Whereas you have other schools that only have 350 or so, and they don't have an assistant.
so 2 days a week that you have someone, is that one of the 3?
So do they go to other schools then? They're not always at your school?
Right, we share them.
Oh, I see.
So, they are typically placed at 2 separate schools and divide their time between those 2 schools. And really, this is part of the capacity development that it takes to, again, recruit and retain. We're trying to grow people into the profession, looking at the amount of outside candidates we have, and also training internal people for leadership positions.
Doug said that half of their salaries are paid by title monies because they're often doing work in title schools. Or they're assigned to title schools. Maybe what they do is they spend half their time in one and half in another.
Very often they do end up in title schools. There will be situations where a non-title school could have an intern,
Right.
depending on size.
All right. The associate superintendent. Currently, those are 3. Jake, you're an associate superintendent, aren't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there's you and Doug and it's Rick.
Rick and Bo, I believe.
So they get 15% of their own base salary.
Are they able to negotiate their salary?
I didn't ask that question, but I think they're just given.
Is that inappropriate to ask you?
I didn't negotiate my salary.
Would you have been able to? I mean,
Only the superintendent can negotiate.
yeah.
Did you skip the superintendent council stipend?
Oh, I didn't mean to. Yes, I did. That was one that I asked a big question, so I had more space. So I had it on the back. I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to skip that one. So yes, the superintendent's council stipend. I learned some interesting stuff about this one. I guess a few years ago, the superintendent's council stipend was $7,500, and it moved up to $9,000. So it's not that the $9,000 is for 9 months or something like that, which I was wondering about. It turns out the superintendent's council stipend is the raise you get when you come to central office. Doug explained it to me like that. So if you were a high school principal, you're on the same line of the salary schedule as directors. So when you move to the central office, you don't necessarily jump up in salary. So you get this if you become one of the superintendent's council. Maybe you guys can help me list who they are. I know that it's the COO and the CFO and human resources, and then there's the secondary director, is that what it is? Director of secondary education, director of elementary education.
Director of special ed, you ever seen that one?
Yeah, special ed. What else?
Maintenance.
Maintenance. Well, isn't that right?
Myself. Me.
And you?
Yes.
7.
So the challenge is that the salary schedule currently does not move past a high school principal, right?
Well, yes, they have them and the directors on the same one.
And so you could go from a high school
create a
principal
separate schedule for them.
to a director, and there is nowhere to articulate that. And so the $9,000 then becomes the place to articulate that. And that's what
I assumed that when somebody moved to the central office that they got a new contract with a different pay scale.
There is no pay scale.
But apparently that is not what happens.
There's no pay scale to move them to.
Well, I just assumed they'd move up a couple of steps or something. I didn't know. But I just thought they would obviously get, a raise. but I guess this is how the raise is done. That's how he explained it to me. So,
So really, that needs to appear in a different manner. I mean,
I would think if, yes,
be better if they
there needs to be
were on
some kind of
Well, that
different
should
way.
plug into your organizational chart. I mean, that's where that applies, organizational chart, not, is what they work for a teacher contract. They're tenured teachers and if they achieve tenure, but you're signing a tenured teacher's contract, is what Jake signs, even though he's an administrator. So we need a new organizational chart that basically lays out those salaries at a different level. I mean, I don't have any problem with it, but the way it works now, it just looks bad.
That's not what I thought it was when I saw it, so I was very surprised.
I would agree with you in that it always surprises me when you see in press releases how much someone is going to make when they come to a position, because a lot of times you look at that and say, I wonder how they came to that number, when as a 7th year teacher you can look very, very closely and see exactly what I make. So I think that's
I agree. I
There's
think
a-
that's what
Yeah.
we do.
There's an
I would agree
opportunity
with that.
there
They didn't
to-
used to have that at all.
Right.
That was done to increase their salary, and it seems to me that the position on the superintendent's council is part of your job description.
Do you know when that was done?
I have no idea.
It's
When-
tenure.
when-
2006, 2005, 2006.
Which part are you talking about?
Oh, the one that the $7,000 one, the $7,500 was in 05, 06.
Well, it had been in place, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it was in place.
It was real quiet. I mean, it was,
But it's
still
a-
last year it was quiet. And I understand, I mean, I think we need to understand that, but it's just the lack of developing an organizational chart. Who answers to whom, who's at what level, and at what salary are they going to make? And I think, Dr. Colgan always believed in trying to keep those salaries down on paper so that the public didn't find out, and was a way of doing that. And now here we are, holding the bag, and somehow we have to.
Well, another explanation that Doug Flowers gave is when we have an incremental raise, a percentage type raise, it wouldn't affect this. Meaning that, okay, now they won't get as big a raise because the stipend money isn't influenced.
That's
by
one
the
way to
rate.
look at it, yes.
Okay, but yet, to me, that's a can of beans. We're trying to say, okay, to me, these stipends on the administrative level have been just pay increases that we've kept from the public. And if we're ever going to get the public trust back, myself being part of that, is I think we're going to have to take, as Todd said, is incorporate these into the salary structure and get rid of probably all these administrative stipends. Because this is what the public has a real hard time with, is like, why do these stipends occur? Why do we even have stipends for administrators? I mean, I have a very difficult time, buying into any of them.
Well, some of them are more exactly for a certain job.
Right, I understand that.
So those are that way because you might change jobs and somebody else will do that job, and that's why those stipends exist that way. But some of these are not.
I'll pick on Jake just because Jake's sitting here.
That's good.
And he can
Well,
take
and
it.
thank you for being here, Jake, so that we can ask questions.
But we said he's at the top of the teacher schedule, correct? But if you look at the associate superintendent's, he gets another 15% of his pay, so there's a raise right there.
Yeah,
So
that is true.
I mean, I don't understand. There's two of them right here in front of our faces.
Yeah.
But that's not happening. He's not getting paid like a teacher. Thanks.
But I
I just
think
ask some
that-
questions I don't understand.
I think that one of the things that we would probably agree upon as a group is they need to be articulated.
Sure.
And that having a salary schedule structure that is inclusive would eliminate a lot of this.
And when an administrator came from a separate district, we could more accurately say, this is what you will make,
Right.
and not, and this, and this, and this, and if you do a little bit extra, maybe this over here.
But don't tell anybody.
Right.
But don't tell anybody.
Well, that's what we
We don't
did.
want anybody
If
to
there
know
was
about this.
We played a shell game
Structure.
for years. We
Yeah.
played a shell game of hiding this, and now we're paying the price.
Right.
And I think it's
That's-
really important. I mean, if you'll just let me speak
Sure.
for just a second. I just want to tell you, I don't think your building principals are trying to play a shell game at all. I don't think we ever thought this was a secret. I don't think we ever thought that how our salaries were structured was something that the board was not fully involved in.
Maybe not, but
And
it's happened.
And so let's fix it. But I want you to hear me say that nobody at a building principal who's out there trying to serve kids and do their job is trying to shuffle
I'm
things
not doubting
around.
that at all.
Okay. I just wanted you to hear me say that because I think that's really important.
Sounds like we're all on the same page on that.
Because nobody knew about the superintendent's council till, I mean, we heard rumors, but nobody knew about it.
Yeah.
It was just quiet.
Is it possible to get a list of positions that are receiving multiple stipends? Is there somebody out there that's receiving the superintendent's stipend, the associate stipend, an athletic director stipend?
Yes, there is, and you know who it is.
Well, I think that's important to.
Doug Flowers does get all of those stipends.
Okay.
He is an associate.
Imagine that.
He
He
gets
is an
every stipend in the
associate
history of the world.
superintendent, and he is the athletic director, and he is on the
Is
superintendent's
the one on
council.
here, is that his athletic director stipend, is that there?
That is his, but it is also the other athletic directors who are in the buildings. They also get that stipend.
Do you know if there's a salary cap for positions?
I think just the schedule goes to a final part.
But not for the administrators, doesn't say.
Yeah, it does, it stops. The
It
only
is.
person who's got a separate contract.
Only
is-
the superintendent can negotiate their salary.
Right, that's the only one.
Everybody else has to stay within the schedules except for stipends.
So if you
Well,
put
that's what I'm
everything
asking, is there a
Yeah.
total compensation cap
No.
for positions?
No, because in smaller schools, and even, I mean, I'm the department chair of the Fine Arts Department at Central. I also coach speech and debate. I could also coach tennis and golf and, 6 other things
Uh-huh.
that would add up.
Uh-huh.
But
But I would think that if you're coaching 6 other things, that you wouldn't have the ability to do that.
I mean, you could also be student council or the band person or and the theater person, and so it could work out so that you could sponsor several things at one time.
And that's why she says in the smaller schools, because especially then you need your teachers
Yes.
to do multiple.
Yeah, and my employees, I might have an employee that has multiple tasks or is in multiple departments, but at some point that person's
It's capped out.
is going to be,
Right.
and if they have additional skill sets, maybe they move into a different salary range, but.
Well,
there's
that is
limitations.
what happens somewhat when, our folks get their master's degrees and things like that, they move to a different section. Maybe you guys want to just jump past some of these because some of them are just, kind of straightforward. I don't know. You tell me what you want to do. We could go straight to looking at the proposed salary schedule that the administration and the Meet and Confer Committee have put together, and we can look at that and kind of dissect what that's got to it. And then we've got other salary schedules and stipend things here from other districts that we can compare to. So, we can see what do they do, and, is that kind of what we're doing here? Or do we want to do it somewhat different? What do you guys?
Do the other districts have administrative stipends, or are we talking about coaches and that type?
No, they do. There are some, yes, there are even some with travel stipends. But nobody has night duty stipends.
And are all these stipends, are they reported to DESI?
Yes and no.
Yeah, that's right. Yes and no. That is exactly right.
The answer is,
Yes, very clear.
this time I only looked at 3 districts because last time we had so many that we couldn't even process them all. So I did 3. One is Springfield, which is about the same cost of living as St. Joe. One is Liberty, which is about the same size district as us, and one is Park Hill, also about the same size district. And both within, spitting distance. Are teachers likely to go there to apply if they wanted to move to another district? So that's why I have those 3. So Park Hill does not have an administrative salary schedule. All of their administrators have independent contracts. So that's a different way of doing it from the way we do it. I have, if you guys want to see their things, I can pass them out. Would you like to see what they have?
Can I say something about, are we just going to skip over these and then just talk about?
Whatever you would like.
I just like to make a comment about one of them.
Okay, go ahead.
The athletic director stipend.
Yes.
I think this is where I get kicked out of the meeting. I think it's a joke. In a lot of other districts, in most other districts, that person is paid as an administrator and treated as such. And when I say that, I mean principal meetings. Those occur with some regularity, and at Central High School, all of the administrators are out of the building. And if there's an emergency, our athletic director will take care of it. But on average, day to day, I need to assign ISS, this kid has too many tardies, we need to hotline, those things aren't occurring because that's not what falls under that person's umbrella. And if that person in that position was paid as an administrator, those things would be better able to occur. I think that there's a lot to be said for paying that person as an administrator, or at least putting them somewhere in the same salary schedule. Because again, we just hired a new activities coordinator is what their job title is called, activities coordinator at Central, and this person's taught before, and I think he's great, love him, doing a great job. But he's making a lot more money than any other person who's ever held that position. I'm not saying anything negative about him, but where you were on the teaching schedule, now is that all of a sudden a negotiable position? If you were the head basketball and head football coach at a school, you would take a pay cut to become a district athletic director in this community. And I think that that's a shame.
I think Laura's right too, and also they spend a lot of nights away.
Absolutely.
Every night.
I mean, that person's at not every single, but music, concerts, plays, games out of town. And so I think that
Because they are all activities, not just athletic.
Right. Dave showed up at my speech and debate tournament. Bless his heart. He had no idea what's going on.
They basically take turns with the administrators, but I would say that I totally agree because I think...
Musical interlude.
Is it yours, Howard?
Another missed call.
When I asked Coach Ziesel, he coached 3 sports before he got into AD, and he took a pay cut to take this job, and he works a lot more hours now than he did coaching 3 sports. So,
as a speech and debate teacher and a department chair, I would have taken a pay cut. I mean, that's just the way that the numbers work.
And they are an administrator, even though they might not give out discipline to kids. They do a lot of administrative type activities.
And they don't teach a class?
No.
It is more of an organizational chart issue.
Yep.
I mean, that's what it is.
And so to put them with
charts all screwed up.
middle school principals or high school assistant principals, somewhere in that realm.
Yeah.
At Platte County, for example, their AD is in charge of all activities and freshman discipline. And that just is his gig. So freshmen with tardies, freshmen who get in fights, freshmen who are freshmen, that's what he deals with. So I think there's a lot to be said for acknowledging that and putting that person on a salary schedule where they deserve.
If that were to happen, would they need DESE certification for administrative?
They almost always have it.
I have an interesting thing that I found out about that. DESE has the rules that you follow for reporting. And so it doesn't matter if you're on our administrative schedule or our teacher schedule, you get reported the way DESE wants it reported by position. So it wouldn't matter if we want to put them on our administrative schedule, we can.
But DESE requires an administrative.
I don't think there's any, I don't know, as far as you mean being an administrator certification.
Right. Isn't there, or is that not?
You can get a DESE certification. There's not
Through the
one in
practice.
athletic administration. You can get a degree in it. But there's not like a specific, I'm going to praxis into this.
Oh, so all the administrators have an administrative certification?
We would still be calling them activities coordinators probably, but they'd be on a different, all we're saying is they're on a different salary schedule, not necessarily, it doesn't have to be called anything particular. But, yeah.
So when you look over these stipends that are on here, are there ones that you look at and you're like, I don't know what that is, and let's talk about that one.
Recruiting stipend?
That's old. It doesn't exist anymore.
How many do we still have?
But some people, a couple people were recruited here. That was what that was for.
Oh, okay.
Not because they were recruiting people.
Gotcha.
Biology.
People were
Yeah,
desperate.
we needed some and we
Physics.
recruited them. So what would happen is you would put them on a different step to get rid of their stipend if you wanted to do that. The reason, Doug explained to me that the reason we haven't just put them on a different step in the past was because you run out of steps. And if you get to that too fast, then you're stuck at that one level for a long time. And it seemed more fair to give people an extra stipend and let them move along.
This is like a signing bonus?
That you get every year.
But it's,
Oh.
it's,
Whoa.
yeah, you get it
I'll
every
sign
year.
again.
Yeah. It's a
Where's
part
the
of your
high
salary.
sign?
It really is a part of your salary. It's just they put it that way so it didn't move them up the steps too fast.
And
Better
it's
to have that
used
money
in
up front,
areas
baby.
where
Yeah.
we don't have anyone coming out of college with those degrees. And so
Right.
you go try to find a high school physics teacher, there aren't.
You're going to see it a lot in business. You're going to see a lot in
And so
family
it's
consumer
used-
sciences.
It was used, I believe.
It was. They don't do it anymore.
I don't know how we're gonna get there.
Which down the road, I could still see that becoming a problem.
I do
I mean,
too.
how do you get people
How are you gonna get a physics teacher?
Right.
if you don't do something to go out and recruit them?
Well, there's
Because-
no more colleges in the state of Missouri that offer a business education certification. Is that right? So there's one that offers family consumer sciences. So those people are going to become fewer and
Yeah.
fewer.
I mean, if you're smart, you go get in one of those areas, and then you're in high demand. That's why you go there. So.
We talked about this in the other stipend meeting.
We did.
Also, and when I go out and recruit somebody, if I recruit them in, I'll maybe pay them a signing bonus, and they pay them a recruiting bonus, and they pay for the moving expense. But I'm not gonna pay for the moving expense year after year after year.
No, but you might offer them a little bit more money if you needed somebody.
Yeah, and then we're done.
Well, I'm
But it
saying you
stays
can
that
do it-
extra money
you can
the
do
whole
it in a different
time.
way. I don't care how you do it. I'm just saying you might have to do something like that. Yeah.
We just
Well,
basically
normally you would
failure
just put
to
them on a
communicate.
different.
That's all it is.
The ones that are percentages of base, is that, because when we were discussing coaching and changing that to a percentage, it was the percentage of step one for a teacher's salary. How is their base, percent of base figured?
It says, I'm not sure if it's the teacher base salary or if it's their own base salary. Do you know, Jake?
I missed it, I'm sorry.
We have a couple of stipends, the associate superintendent stipend and the school size stipend, that say that it's a percentage of the base salary. Is it the teacher base salary or is it your personal base
It
salary?
would be your base on the salary schedule.
So your personal base.
Brad said it earlier, that the philosophy for having the stipends might have been good at one time, but adjust the salaries to what they need to be
Yeah.
and stop with all the. with all the
So that's why I was
different
saying maybe we should just jump out of the stipends except for the ones that you're like, what the heck is that?
Right.
You know, and get into these other things.
It'll put the pressure on if you say the stipends are gone, now come up with an organizational chart. It's going to make them do it. 'Cause you got a year.
And I would also like to add that that doesn't mean you just take all the stipend monies and roll them in. I think they all need to be evaluated. And if people are receiving 3 or 4 different categories of stipends, or if
Maybe
they're
they-
receiving one stipend that's evaluated, quantified, qualified, and then approved by the board.
I think one of the ways that districts go about doing that process is through a routine market study analysis. In most districts, they contract that every 3 to 5 years with a third-party contractor, and then you always know you're in the range of market value, whether or not that person's receiving 3 stipends, no stipends, 1 stipend. It's really about their total compensation package. And so, I mean, to me, that is going to be critical moving forward, that we don't get back in this situation again. Because that market study analysis, if it was a routine process for our district, would avoid this. Does this person really need this or not? And keep us out of this in the future.
And that's not done only in school districts, that's done in a
Absolutely,
number of
yeah.
industries.
Yeah.
And that's
We have
the
not
for
had
every
one of
job
those.
There is in the district, basically.
Right.
I think there's
Where
a
you wanna
difference
go.
in the type of stipends we're talking about too. If, for instance, you are taking on responsibility of student council, that is above and beyond the school day.
Yes.
And it's beyond your normal job description. Or if you decided that at the same time the district hired you to be the golf coach,
Yeah.
that is a different type of stipend than the stipend that's given for superintendent's council or associate superintendent or school size, that's different. And so I think we need to have some delineation between the types of stipends we're talking about. As we're discussing this, it seems like everybody's lumping it all together as one thing, and I don't think it is.
I think we're on the same page.
Yeah.
I'm on that same page.
Yeah, I would agree, the stipends that, yeah, the true extra Moody stipends are a different, they're a different beast.
And they ought to be called that rather than stipend.
And I think the earlier stipend meetings we had were quote-unquote non-administrative.
Yeah.
But we're tying that in with our discussions right here. I hear that.
I'm trying not to.
Okay. But I've heard it said by people.
I think the non-administrative.
Okay, well then,
we-
let's pass out the proposed schedule that the folks have worked out and our current administrative salary schedule. You guys each just take one of those and pass them around. We can sort of look at that. And then I've got these others from the other districts that we can consider. And I have talked to people at these districts to ask about their various stipends that they may have that are not listed on their salary schedule and that sort of thing. So. I did a lot of stapling. The last time I ran copies, I had a little more time to get ready for this meeting, and I just used a really cool copy machine that did all the stapling for me. I much prefer that.
Keep giving to her.
Thanks, Larry. You can just pile them all up there, that's just fine. What is this about? Oh, that's, is it a microphone? Is it listening to me? Whose microphone?
Oh, that's mine.
Is it? It's very nice.
Golly.
Very fancy.
You have all of those. I have everything except for this one.
Okay.
Because this is more of a casual, if you have some like, important thing you know when we're talking, it would be okay to be like, hey, just so you know. We'll throw you out for this.
Thank you.
I'm glad that you came in and you have something that you know. I would very much like for us all to hear. Well, I know it's different than in other, but this is so collaborative. I just wanted you to know that.
This would be great.
All right, now I talked to Doug some about this. Julie, are you on the meet and confer?
I'm not.
Dang. Is anybody here? Dang. So I thought they should really explain it probably if they had been there.
It's a secret.
The salary schedule that is prepared here for us to look at.
We have our teacher proposed.
We have, yes, the proposed one is the sideways one.
But that's administrative, not.
Yeah, the administrative one. We don't have a teacher one. This is just the administrative one. Because there are not a lot of teacher stipends to consider.
I could give it a shot.
Well, we'll all talk about it, but I just thought if you were in there, you would have a lot of extra. So, okay, so the proposed administrative schedule, this is the one that administration has worked up with the Meet and Confer Committee. And it's folding in stipends, as we were just saying. Doug was explaining that a lot of these stipends were meant to be part of somebody's salary. And so that's why some of those have been rolled in here. That includes the travel, and they might do stipends.
There are no building principals.
There are no building principals, what?
On Meet and Confer.
Oh, I wasn't sure who all is
It's according to what I.
It's 2 grade school teachers and a high school teacher, I can tell you that. The high school teacher works at the alternative building.
And MSTA rep, John Stein.
Of course, there's an MSTA person naturally.
Yeah,
But it is on the
it's 2 elementary school teachers and a alternative high school teacher.
Teacher teacher or administrator?
Well, that makes sense because they're not an administrator.
John's a
right?
teacher.
No, there is a teacher. John's not part of the committee.
So
He's
that's
in
you
there.
being.
Yeah.
He's just the representative.
Mhm.
Okay, so the night duty and the travel were rolled in, but if you take a look at our current extra duty schedule there on the very last page, that is what's left of the night duty and travel stipends. You recall at our spring meetings, we recommended to the board that that $5,000 that had originally been okay be removed. And they went with that recommendation, and that is why these numbers are different than the one that we had in the spring. So several of these did have a night duty thing on there, or their night duty was higher, and those have been reduced. And then the number 1 is travel, and number 2 is night duty. So those numbers there have been put into the salary schedule. The superintendent's council one is in there too, but as a part of the whole schedule. You couldn't put just one person in there, you see what I'm saying? I'm not going to explain it as well as he probably would.
So basically, they would take our current total compensation and place us on the correct.
What happened here was they added that 7th column, which is going to be only for directors. So I would assume that that's where the $9,000 has been put in, is to make that column higher than the high school principals one, so that there's a separate line for that kind of a position.
There's no line for associate superintendent then?
Yeah.
I guess it would be the director one. Do you know, Jake?
Ms. Hodges,
Maybe you can explain
the
that.
schedule was created. The schedule was created to encompass all administrators, so you could take the all administrative total compensation and be placed on the schedule right here, except for the doc stipend as indicated below.
The doctoral, right.
Yes.
Mhm. So there's not even one for having a specialist degree, because you would be expected to have that at some level. So.
It's 0.15 maybe.
All right, so
I
how
have
does
a
it look
question.
compared to the other administrative schedules?
I have a question about this. Teacher's schedule equals, and it's got 66,940.
That's step 29, range 7. I do have the teacher salary schedule.
Now, is that including when they have doctor's degrees?
Step 29, range 7.
I think on theirs they get 3,000 more too.
It's based on.
Oh yes, everyone who has a doctoral gets the extra.
The 3,000, but I mean, is that 66?
That does not include
940, is that
3,000.
including someone with a doctorate?
No.
That's just
They don't put it
a
on the salary
bachelor's
schedule.
degree, teacher at the highest.
Well,
And how did they get there? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
We have a specialist
Yeah.
for
How did they get
Three
there?
on top of the three already.
and then all the way down.
Yeah.
So it'd be as far
And then
as.
the 3 on top of the 3 that they're already getting is what you want to know.
This is this year's salary schedule. And if you do, what was it, 29 on 7, it's only this amount. But I think that it's proposed, I think that's a proposed different schedule that we don't. Right now, that's that.
Okay, and that's, so the steps then go to 30?
They do, and one of the things that the administration wants to see is the steps to go longer.
Well, in truth, if you stop it there at 19, it doesn't go to 30.
Right, because those are all the same. But they're not all the same as you go over here, though.
So what you're saying is, if you have a bachelor's degree, you top out at
That's
step
right.
19,
That's right.
but you're trying to give the impression of 30.
Well, they just didn't put,
They have that longevity that they get, what is that, every 3 years?
3 is 7.
750, they're trying to do
750
away
every
with
3
that.
years.
and
Sure.
increase the
And-
steps.
Yeah, but they,
would you guys
And
have?
once the
Yeah.
administrator reaches the 12th step, they get a 0.015%.
Here's the
That's
teacher.
included for the teacher.
So you're talking 66,
No, it's only every 3 years.
So I think there's an equity right here.
If you
It's
want to
gonna
come
take
up
some time
and
to
find
go
a
through
way to talk
this,
about it,
yeah.
it's easier. This is the teacher,
29
this is the current teacher salary schedule. And I believe
Yeah,
that
well,
this
it is.
number is also the
Yeah,
new
what's that
proposed
mean?
Okay.
teacher one,
66,940 is
which
right
I
there.
do not have.
which is 29 with PhD. So it isn't a 3 on top of that.
Right, it should be on, it can't be though, because that's with PhD. So that doesn't, they should back 3 out of that.
Jake, am I correct that that number is from
So,
a proposed teacher?
Yes, that is from the teacher's salary.
He's going to consider future
And the
teachers.
purpose of that is that if any change is ever made, as you can see above each number is an indexed number. So you should find, so that the administrative salary is based upon that indexed number of the teacher salary, 66,940.
Okay, let's start with the 66,940. Where is that?
That's on the teacher schedule, that's step 29 with
Yeah.
their ED or PhD.
right,
And it's down there on.
yeah, that's
This
way.
year's-
That means they're going to get another 3,000 on top of.
But that would be on this year's schedule, and that's not based off this year, that's based off of the proposed teacher salary schedule for next year, which we don't have.
No, this is this year's right here.
Yes, but this number is not based off of this. It appears there, yes, but it's not based off of that, is that correct?
They wanted everyone to get a 2% raise,
Right.
and so everything's supposed to be
Right.
2% higher on the next.
But they were also talking
They're
about
both saying
lengthening
14.
Because
the,
range 7 is 63.1, where's the 66?
So the request from the Meet and Confer Committee was that every teacher get a 2% raise, and so that would include a 2% raise for the following school year. So that would be
Right, but this is last.
step 29 on the 15-16 proposed teacher salary schedule.
Including the PhDs and the administrative.
What's
yeah, that's where we got the
64,362 is 8% raise.
These two.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's
I can't
Okay.
think.
So let's get the number correct here
Right.
first before we get started.
Because I'm going to retain.
So where is the 66,940 appears on the 14-15 salary schedule as EED, PhD, steps 29 and 30. So the question is, would those teachers get an additional $3,000 since they're already in the EED, PhD category?
So we're talking about the teacher salary schedule right now.
We're talking about the number that appears at the top of the proposed admin salary schedule
66,940.
and where it appears on the teacher salary schedule.
And at the bottom says an additional 3,000 is added.
No, you have a good point.
I actually think that, isn't our current salary compensation, is it not 6,000 for, you build up 3,000 for like your masters, your specialists?
I got 1,200 for getting a master's.
Guys, if I spoke to that,
I don't know.
I can't speak to it accurately. And so
It says here at the bottom of the teacher salary schedule, $1,000 increments are allowed for 16 hours. Doesn't
I don't
say
think
that.
the,
masters.
looks to me like it's already included.
Teachers with national board
it is.
certification get an additional 3,000.
I don't
That's
know.
what it is. Something's wrong.
Yeah, I think something.
So they have their own column for having the PhD or the doctorate, and that's why there's not an extra 3,000 on that one.
And the administrator wouldn't have the job without the doctorate. And that should be included in that salary schedule rather than adding an extra
You don't have to
3,000
have
if you're
a
not doing it with the teacher.
You don't
you don't have to have your doctorate.
No, but you do for many of the positions. They wouldn't hire you without it.
We only have about 6 in the whole district.
I don't think, I mean, even when they hired Dr. Smith, she didn't have her doctorate at that point. So I don't know that there's anything in our guidelines
Not
that say
required,
yeah.
but it typically.
Well, I agree with that, but
A lot of our elementary principals wind up.
How many of our principals have their doctorate?
I'm going to go with 6. Is that close?
That is up to
More than
the
I
that.
think there's more than that.
I think there's a lot more than that.
Don't you have
There's not many.
2 or 3 just
Actually, at
did
secondary level.
central, don't you have 2 or 3 of your administrators?
We just have 2 right now.
Right now, we have 2 administrators and 1 more is getting ready to defend.
Like 3 high schools and middle school.
We have 3 teachers with doctorates though, as well.
It's not very many.
6-ish.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can't worms, but I get buses when I can.
I think there's 4 at the secondary level.
66,940. Okay.
I'm sorry that I've not been given the teacher proposed schedule for next year, but it's supposed to be, what administration was recommending was a 2% raise in a step for everyone, so the shift should be 2% more for all of the teachers. So that would put that, I guess that would put that amount, that 66,940 on step 29, range 7, on that teacher on the schedule.
Were they also discussing lengthening the steps?
Yes.
Because they end, like for teachers at step 19 for step 1?
Yes,
column
that
one.
step 19, that you're expected that you would get a master's degree by the time you've been here 20 years. So that's why that
But not
was,
necessarily.
you don't have to, but you would stop getting raises
You would stop getting raises.
at that point.
Because I know that our speech language pathologists and process consultants top out at step 17, whereas everybody goes further. And a master's is considered part of both of those.
Well, that's the problem with a lot of our salary schedules is that they do not have enough steps in them. So they all need to have
They need to change.
steps that take you all the way through.
Pulled it off the top of the chart as far as they can go.
Wonder how many steps they wanted?
Because I think if you look at all your,
The way the administration
At least
knows,
31.
Bunch of you
I mean,
Well,
at least
Didn't
31.
used to have 30. This looks like a new one to me.
some of them always have 30.
Or take the mean.
It's always had 30. It just, what you've seen in the past is that the numbers stopped existing, so it looked like a stair step. And so now you have 30, even though you don't get any higher after a while.
And the administrator gets 1.5%.
Well, teachers, I mean, you can
They
make
all
this
start at
decision at the
19.
district level. The reason districts don't go up on the teacher one is because they want them to go right. They want them to at least get over to a master's level. That's why a lot of districts, you'll see, don't give any raises after a certain point on the teacher salary because
Yes, in fact, Springfield, after 10 years, they stopped.
Or
for
fills after
bachelor's
7. You top out at 7 years if you just
But
have a
like what
bachelor's.
she was talking about, like process consultants or administrators, or there's lots of jobs that do not have enough steps now.
If you look at Liberties, they
They do have
stop at 9 years with a bachelor's degree. And I think that Springfield does the same, if I remember correctly.
I was just looking at that 1.5% that the administrator gets after they reach step 12, and the teachers don't have that.
but they keep going up for masters
What was that, Howard?
to 30.
The 1.5% the administrators get after they reach step
For
12.
longevity.
Well,
I think the 1.5% equals what the step is. And so instead of,
It's slightly less
is it?
than the
Okay.
other steps according to Doug,
Okay.
because by then you've gotten to such a high salary amount, but you will still continue to go up. Right now, the way we do longevity is you don't get anything more until 3 years come along, and then you get $700 more. And that $700 more is part of your pay. You go up $700, and then 3 more years go by, and then you go up $700 more. So this is supposed to be like a step for people who have reached the very longest time here. But I thought that was going to be for the teachers too. Okay, yeah. Would have been good to have that to look at here today.
It might be worth noting on the Liberty schedule, if you're there 0 to 5 years, you add $4,200 to it. If you're in the district 6 to 10, you add $5,400. If you're in the district 11 to 15 years, that's $7,800. And administrators between 16 and 20 years get $9,900 added to that salary that you're looking at the top. And so these little steps, a smaller step, at the bottom of the column, and reasonably compare to that structure.
So Springfield does a $3,000 addition for having national board certification for teachers.
I think we do that too.
We do that now. If we did the is going away with the stipend, but we still have that.
I think the idea is to continually award for natural board certified and doctorate, I mean, all the way through.
I think it is hard to look at the proposed administrative schedule without the proposed teacher schedule to see how they relate to each other.
Well, even if you, I mean, I'm not sure that I don't know what the admin is, that might be for, both of them might be for 14. Could they be? Or do you think that's the proposed schedule?
Well, this one is the proposed one.
I
But
think
it's
the whole idea is
still
going to
based
be the
on the
same.
teacher's salary. So regardless of what numbers, I mean, it's all still gonna be based on whatever that teacher's salary is, right?
Yes.
It's based on teacher salary if they have a PhD.
Well, that
And
number
this
you
one
can
is not
argue,
based
but I'm
on
just saying it's based on a number off of the teacher's salary.
Yeah, it's based on.
Yeah.
And I think that was the whole idea, was to build a salary schedule that is all inclusive based upon the teacher's salary.
Yeah.
And so therefore, if whatever percentage is added to the teacher's salary, whatever that number changes, therefore the index number multiplies out whatever it would be.
Well, that's why you gotta have the teacher's salary, because otherwise it locks us at a permanent disadvantage. So whatever the teachers agree to right now, they're locked in forever. I think it's more important than
Well,
just,
if it's on a number though, it's gonna go up or down.
well, if the
Everybody's
teachers get
gonna go up
2%,
there.
the administrators get 2%, whatever you lock in, that's where you lock in
Right.
at. And that's, we need to look at the difference compared to other districts and what teachers make and administrators and look at, are we in that range? Because I think, according to Desi, we're not.
Well, I have some
Well, I agree.
printouts
I
from,
mean, we
I have some
all wanna
printouts from
be-
Desi. More printouts.
Everybody ought to, if our goal is 95%, everybody ought to
Right.
be 95%.
I'm with
That
you,
is
Barry.
the
I don't think that, I'm not against teachers making high salaries. I'm just saying that teachers are going to lock themselves in a permanent inferior position. And then,
Well, I don't want that. I don't think anybody
Right.
wants that. I think, I want everybody to be fairly paid. So,
right, we just don't know.
I
know-
printed these today from the DESI website. They're little graphs. They have these districts that we've been talking about, and they have the average, the state average. I went back to 2009, but this one accidentally goes to 2008. But you can see how far, it's just a continuation of the same kind of page. What I didn't do was, and I should have before I copied them all, was write down which one is which. There is a key right here, but there's a blue and a teal, and they're a little bit hard to tell the difference. But the bottom one is Springfield, and the higher one is Liberty. So this one is the administrators. The administrators coming around first, and the second one is the teachers. St. Joe is the gray one. Did you want to see them?
Kathy, I have another question.
Yes.
The current board goal states now that a 95% goal is for starting teachers. Isn't it more reflective that we look at a 95% goal across the entire continuum?
Yep.
That would be much
Absolutely,
better
you're right.
for
I
us.
totally agree.
I don't
Yep.
think you're going to find market analysis that says that at any level of this organization that people are being compensated
Right.
within 95% of our components.
I agree.
So I just think that that's more reflective of our core beliefs, which is everyone should be compensated in our organization at the 95% mark if we can, to the best of our ability.
Okay, so Doug gave me some paperwork today that has numbers on it. I didn't print it all out because it's slightly different from that graph. I thought the graph was easier to read. It has a lot of numbers on there from the Suburban League and state average of the top 20 largest districts. These are numbers that he has used in the past when looking at the salary schedules and stuff. So you guys who have been on the teacher representative groups are probably familiar with them. You've probably heard them before. These numbers are for 2013. And on those graphs, the 2014 one for the administrative salaries makes kind of a jump up. You'll probably see that at the end there. Those are going to be the ones that were reported in October. And they told me those reporting in October. So this is 2014, then that's got to be the ones. Doug told me that he reported the stipends that are like the superintendent's council and the percentage stipends, but does not report the travel or the night duty stipends. And in other districts, some do not report the travel. I think it's Parkville, I can't remember which one, that does a check. They actually cut a check. So that's done like an expense. So that it's not done, as a salary portion. So I think they may not report theirs. One of the districts puts it on the contract. I think that's Liberty. They have the travel on there, and it's on there, and it's part of the contract. It's reported to DESI. They were very clear. And then I think it's Springfield that doesn't have that at all. You just get your mileage.
Okay, I have my own handout.
Okay.
Yeah, I have my own handout, which would be interesting to see, because this is the sheet that was handed to us by Doug at our very first meeting. Okay? And I took the liberty of, and I did this many, many months ago when we first met. I had every administrators here by name, every stipend they've gotten last year. And guess what I did? I added them all up. So this is the actual original running sheet. You have a copy on the side there. And if you take every administrator and divide it by the 44 that were listed on here, the average is 99,174. So what's being reported isn't accurate. So I think that I'm not trying to say that I want administrators to make less money. I just want to be out in the open. And I think that's what everybody wants. So this little graph here that shows in 2014 that it went up to 83,000, 84,000 isn't exactly truthful either. Okay, when you add them all up, so I have the actual contracts with me, the average is $99,000.
Well, and not that long ago, there was a report in the paper that said we only have 6 people in the district who make over $100,000.
Correct.
You can't believe 95% of what's in the paper. I heard that on the news.
But so this is a lot of
So you might as well read the paper.
It's possible that these extra stipends were not reported until this year.
Okay, so why
And
would
that's why
they
you
not
count.
be reported? Just a question.
I think that's what's so hard when you go from district to district. Because there's lots of districts that do not report everything that they pay. And I agree with Brad. I think it ought to be out in the open.
Sure should.
Extra duty stipends are separate.
I don't have a problem with that.
Well, what I have problems with, if evidently some of these administrators are being pushed down to the teacher salaries, which artificially pumps ours up. So I think ours are actually artificially high.
And I should make note, too, the $5,000 stipend isn't included in there.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, and it doesn't exist anymore for our district.
It's hard when you're comparing. I don't know. Because you're never comparing apples and apples. Never.
And we've never sat down and actually done an open organizational chart, and we're suffering for it now. Because it's always...
I think we just want this graph to be legitimate.
Right.
That's all we want.
But if our graph is not truthful, then other people's graphs aren't truthful either. You know what I
I
mean?
agree completely. I understand. But like she
I'm not
said,
sure
if
that's
you look
true.
at her, she just right off school and all they have is the travel night on here.
Yeah,
We're missing all of them.
yeah.
No, I spoke to them and they don't have those kind of stipends. I asked them about them. There's nobody that has those stipends. They just have the salaries, right? They don't have a superintendent's council stipend because those people just make more money.
It's that
a lot.
different, right?
Yes, and of course more because their districts generally make more than ours. If you look at the map there of Springfield, remember they are about the same cost of living as us. Their teachers make more, but not their administrators.
Well, I don't know how I don't know enough about how they do a study, but I mean, if you had somebody that actually did a study, and then you,
Sounds like we want to study.
I mean, I don't know how that fixes this for next year. I still think we need to get on a schedule, so where we got everybody on a schedule that works that way.
Well, we
And I think a job description.
Yeah.
One of the things that we did, because I sit in a meeting with Jake once a month, and we talk about concerns brought to MSTA. And one of the things that we discussed last month was this market study and what that would look like and how much it would cost and how long it would take, but the overall benefit to us all and our community to ensure that this is what someone who's not from here and who doesn't have any piece of the pie, I mean, they don't have a dog in the fight, and this is what they think and they professionally know to be true. I think there's a lot of merit in that. It is from what we were kind of discussing in that meeting. It is rather expensive, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, what you invest in it will multiply when you have that trust from the community that we are where we belong based on what our houses are worth and what property is worth and what other people in other professions make in this community. So I think if one person said it, all of us have said it, yeah, it's time for that to happen. Now that doesn't, like you said, that doesn't solve the problem for now, but it gives
Well,
a
it could solve the problem.
light at the end of the tunnel.
It could solve the problem for next year.
Is next year when we're going to vote on the levy again?
August, that's the last date. Yeah.
What we would need, salary schedules have to be approved by, like April or at least.
They weren't last year, were they?
Not necessarily.
We have to
They
have
can
contracts
issue
by
in letters of
April.
intent and come back and adjust salaries, which
They
is
can
what they've
change
done in the
what we
past.
make, yeah.
Or they,
They don't have, they can't offer you less than what they did the year before. They won't.
And I know
They
Jake
don't
can
have to be
speak
set.
to it, but apparently it's a very lengthy process.
I understand it.
Yeah.
I've never been through one, but that is my understanding.
That it takes some time because they have to. What they were saying was, those people who come in to do the study have to have some trust built in them. Because if someone walks up to me and says, "Well, how much do you make?" I'm not going to tell that person right off.
That's public knowledge here.
Yeah,
I mean, they can
and
look
then
up what
that's
I make,
fine.
you know?
But you may be able to say, "Oh well, this is how much I make to teach. This is how much I make to sponsor X activity." Or whatever, but so once they build that trust with the community, then they're better able to do their job.
But I don't know that we couldn't eliminate the stipends that we're talking about and produce a total compensation, which is what we've been discussing, and go forth with a salary study in the future. I mean, I think you have to have that piece. I don't know that we can get that done in time, but if the recommendation is that compensation needs to be articulated in a total package instead of these pieces, then I don't know that we need. I think both of those things can be two separate things.
Yeah.
I can look at the salary schedules and I'm in agreement. I think there needs to be one whole, one stated salary for administrators. I'm not, in disagreement with that at all. But when we look at all the information from the different districts and we look at what we're paying our administrators and where you guys would like to be compared to the rest of them, when I sit and look at the salary schedule for an educator, I can travel 50 miles and make $17,000 more.
Right.
So
You know,
administrator.
Right.
But the thing is, what is that gap between what you
Right.
guys are wanting?
So can we.
Well,
Yeah.
nobody
Yeah, we all
wants-
can, and I choose to stay here, and
Nobody
that's
wants-
the thing. But
Right.
what is the gap between
Yeah.
the percentage that you're getting paid more for being here? Why shouldn't we get a
We're not
percentage?
wanting a gap. No, I don't think anybody wants a gap. We all want to be at the same,
Right.
So,
whatever it is.
what we need to do is possibly the study to see what is that gap?
Exactly.
See where that gap needs to be closed. You know, when I look at a process consultant, you guys make 1,400, and I look at Kansas City, they're making 3,000. I know what those ladies, I know what those ladies do. I know the after hours that they do. They
Well,
should be at
yes.
the $3,000 mark. They should be.
All of
Okay,
those
before I
places
came here
do
today- Before I
make
came
more
here
money.
today, I was in a meeting with 12 other major St. Joseph employers, just so you know, major employers. And the subject came up with the levy, and I can tell you, not one of them in the room is going to vote for the levy right now at the point that we're in. And that's the problem we have. So we have to stop this shell game right here if we're going to get it passed in August. I'm just telling you that right now. I love administrators, we love schools, but we live in a little bit of a bubble in the school when you work in the school, so you don't understand sometimes what everybody else is feeling. And I want you to, there's a disconnect when business people talk to educators. It's a huge disconnect. But I'm trying to tell you, it's a major problem if we don't get this solved before August. It's got to get solved. Or we're not going to pass a levy, I'm just telling you, I can be, it's a problem.
And I
And
think
we
if
wanna get
you,
passed. We
if you
wanna get
ask
passed.
every Joe Schmo on the street, teachers do good things. Teachers in the classroom are doing hard work. People in school buildings are doing hard work. But what I keep hearing is there are a lot of people who do not see kids in their daily job. And a lot of those people are on this list, making
Big bucks.
a lot, and they're not seeing kids. And that's what I think the community has an issue with. It is, you're not in the building, you don't see the children, you're not working one-on-one with a kid every day.
When I was in elementary school, which obviously by the color of my hair has been a while ago, but we had a principal. We didn't have an assistant principal. We didn't have what we call them, a trainee. You know, I'm kind of concerned, and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody, but I'm kind of concerned, why do we need so many administrators? I mean, really, I mean, you know, is the assistant principal taking care of the school while the principal's out doing something else? You know, I mean, I don't understand, you know, are we going to too many meetings? You know, maybe we need to look at, you know, maybe streamlining our administrative costs by streamlining the administration.
Well, we said at our convocation, we're up to 2,200 employees now. That's a huge increase. And we have never done an efficiency study, ever.
You know, in the private
What
sector,
it is.
you're not going to hire somebody unless you need them.
Right.
You know, I think the school district has been creating positions, you know, because, you know, well, it seems like we need them.
Yeah.
Now we're going to create something for them to do. I mean, obviously the school district, in my opinion, and you know, which may mean something to somebody and may mean not anybody else, but I don't think they're running it as a business. You know, I mean, I just can't. You know, if we don't pass the levy next year, this business is going to get real hard to manage.
Well, are there groups that either of the teachers or organizations work with that do these kind of analyses, efficiency studies and market analysis?
We have a fundamental, we believe in collective bargaining, MSTA doesn't. So they're going to take whatever they get. We don't believe in that. So it's a fundamental difference.
MSTA bargains for teachers, not for administrators.
They don't collective bargain. They don't. And that's a huge difference between the two organizations. So we have a fundamental difference in how we view the process. Now, we wouldn't mind working with MSTA to help them along the process, but you can't just take what you're given. You have to walk in, do studies, and say, here's where the teachers need to be, here's where the administrators need to be. And you can't walk in and say, well, here's the money you're going to get. Well, thank you. That's not how you bargain. They're getting a good deal. They're getting a bargain.
So
not
we
making a bargain.
do have organizations
Oh,
that you
yeah.
guys are familiar with that do
These
kind of
districts, Park
analysis.
Hill, are all NEA.
Well, we need to find that information out. We need to talk to those people.
You know, and even for our teachers, we have no approval process. Our teachers aren't happy with this, but we have no approval process. It's done for us by a small group. We don't
Have
vote
you
on it.
done
We
a
don't-
survey that said teachers aren't happy with this?
You're supposed to let us vote on it, but we
You're
don't.
supposed to let who vote?
you're our bargaining agent, MSTA, right?
Mhm.
Supposed to let the teachers have some input, we don't get any.
Oh, we do. Every meeting, every month there's a meeting. Every building has a rep, except for yours.
Mine doesn't.
All right, well, that is an interesting issue, but not one
It
that we
is.
settled today in our committee. What we're saying that we're not able to do anything with the materials that we have. Is that what you guys are saying? What we need is.
Well, I'm hearing two things. People can say if I'm wrong, is that we need, number one, to fix this now because we've got a levy coming up. We've got to do something now to get buy-in. We need to get rid of these stipends. We need to have somewhere for people to go on a salary schedule. And
I think
two,
that would be very newsworthy if it came out front page that, you know, the school board has voted to remove all stipends,
I
eliminate all
mean,
stipends.
when we talk about, when we're talking about the stipends, just the ones that could be just in the salary somehow. Or not, whatever they
We
decide.
can't get rid of
That's
those
what I'm saying.
No,
Not the extra duty.
Not extra duty, you know, in
Yeah.
other words, we
Yeah.
eliminate stipends from our vocabulary, and now it's extra duty, and we're compensated for extra duty. Not
Right.
because we're
Right.
an administrator, not because we have a title. You know, I mean, I would love to give myself a new title and give myself a $10,000 raise, but it just doesn't happen that way.
Right.
Not in the real world.
So we
I
need
don't
to
think
do
you
that.
can-
and,
I don't think you can determine extra duty until you know what a job description is.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, is it truly extra duty, or is it just part of your duty? You know, that's what my comment earlier, or question was earlier, you know, on when we're talking some of these, you know, stipends. Is this what I would call overtime, or is this during the course of the day? I mean, because, you know, if it's during the course of the day and you just have, you know, a little bit more responsibility, then I don't understand why we're paying some of this, you know, this money, you know, the amount, because it's not overtime, as I call it. It's just
Right.
part of your job, you know.
I think it's a great step in the right direction that the district has gone forth and said, there are many of these on the administrative side we can't eliminate. The only thing you really can't eliminate is a doctoral stipend, because some have it and some don't. It's not a requirement of the job. All the rest of the stipends can be eliminated
Yeah.
on the administrative side. And when you get into the coordinators and the coaching, you know, that's a different topic. But on the administrative side, that was the goal, to eliminate the stipends.
I think it would also be very beneficial for there to be someone here who could better explain what some of these are. Because I'm just looking at this last page of
The travel
the
stipends?
travel and night duty. And an elementary principal is making $150 less than a high school principal for travel. A middle school assistant principal making the same, making $500 less than a high school principal for night duty. And is that apples to apples, or is that apples to oranges?
And when you look at superintendent's cabinet, they're getting $1,700 to $2,800 for travel on top of the $9,000 for being on Soup's council.
Yes.
Remember though,
What's
that
that
the
for?
$9,000
That's
was
travel
the
to
raise
Bahamas.
that they got when they got that job, that there wasn't
well, anyway,
contract.
I think we need to put those on a schedule and get rid of the stipends as much as we can, and then also figure out how we can get a good study that everyone is happy with, that study it.
Okay, so the schedule that has been proposed does get rid of all the stipends. They're essentially put into the schedule.
But does it widen the gap? Because if it does, we haven't accomplished anything. All we've done is we've hidden what we were hiding before.
Right.
I mean, really.
I think that's why it was pushed through so quick. We don't even know what we're doing next year. We're already talking about pay raises for next fall.
We don't have an audit back, and we don't have any indication from the state what kind of finances we're going to have. How can we vote anything in right now?
Especially pay raises.
We don't traditionally do our salaries in November.
Nobody does.
Come on, nobody does.
Nobody does that.
But this changeover doesn't cost the district anything to articulate the salaries, including the stipends, versus articulate the salaries with the stipends broken out, isn't a cost issue. Now, whether or not we can afford a 2% raise, that's a separate issue. But articulating the stipends and how we put that in front of the public is not a cost issue. That could be accomplished right now.
So
mean, that could be
Well, you're
accomplished at any point in
articulating a
time.
permanent disparity between teachers and administrators is what you're articulating.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what
No,
you're saying.
they're worried
You can
that if
articulate
we
it all you
accept
want, but
this
that's
new
what we're
schedule,
doing.
that we'll
I
be
just
stuck
think
with
that's-
it.
Right, we'd be
'Cause
stuck
you
with
can't
it.
come back from the schedule. No one's gonna wanna
Oh,
reduce.
yeah.
Maybe what we should do is wait to give our recommendation to it until we've seen
Well, I think
how
Gene's
it
right.
relates better to the teacher.
We gotta have a line staff chart, we gotta have job descriptions. I mean, otherwise, what do you have? You don't know what anybody does, you don't know what positions are. I mean, I can't even, well, when I first started here 23 years ago, I don't even know who is downtown anymore. I used to be able to name them, now I can't.
Todd, what was it you said? A line?
A staff chart, you know, I mean,
Staff chart.
who's under whom. I know they were working on one. Organizational chart, line of staff chart. And then, once we have that and you have job descriptions with it, you can say, well, this person needs this. We have people that have cars that run servers. They drive to the server room every day and they get a free car. And I'm thinking, that's crazy. What do you need a car for? I mean, I've gotten those back. We've got people that get stipends and they don't travel. I mean, that's crazy. Maybe if your job, a process consultant, travels all the time, they need more of a stipend. But I just think we're just handing out money because the people that are writing the rules are the ones handing out the money.
So in this schedule here, does this just take what somebody's current compensation is, and let's assume that they get the superintendent's console and they get the athletic director stipend? Is that all just rolled in, and then they're just going to fall into that chart, or will they possibly fall into a different level?
It was explained to me that they are all put into the new schedule.
So the total compensation that they're getting now will
They would
change.
put them right where they,
That's where they have been, yes.
Right.
So they will not make less money than they did this year.
the main
Without
concern
the
that,
$5,000.
the main concern that Todd is bringing up is that it also is to link to the teachers one. And so we
But I think
have the
they
teachers
spend-
remaining in that section. So if we ever raise the
Number of
teacher
jobs.
section, it raises the admin
It
section.
is, it's a
So,
permanent.
as a member of the community, I would be frustrated if the stipends just roll 100% into the base salary and it just falls into the grade. We haven't accomplished anything at that point.
We just hit them in a different manner.
All we did was
I mean, really?
They're not
Now-
dumb. I
now-
mean, people aren't going to fall for it.
No, but you did all say that if that's what we should be paying people, then let's just have that be their salary.
Yes,
But
but
what we need to decide is that what we should
salary
be?
But we didn't roll any stipends into the teacher's salary.
Yeah,
see what I'm
so
saying?
There weren't any.
Separate.
That's right.
Right.
You know, I mean,
We're just widening the gap.
yeah, I mean, that's
it.
all we're doing.
Right. We lost ours. We lost.
So we
fertilizer
wouldn't be
already.
comfortable with this. It's not that this is bad, but we need the teacher one to also be evaluated
Right.
and made to be an appropriate
Yeah.
position, I guess, statewide with relation to the other.
I mean, you got to hit your
State
target
average?
market. Who are we losing most of our teachers to? Yeah, but I don't think we should be Park Hill. I mean, we can't.
Did you see how high up they are on that
Oh,
thing?
yeah, we can't be Park
That
Hill.
sure
We
would
can't
be
Park
lovely.
City, but we do
That's
have
it, we're
We don't
looking
have
for
the same
teachers,
tax
dude.
base.
So,
we do have an advantage that we don't have the huge overburden of, I hate to say it, but new schools. They got huge bond issues that float. We don't. That's an advantage we have. So we can use that advantage to work into something else. But we haven't even studied that. We haven't even talked about that. We haven't talked about our advantages, our disadvantages, nothing. Frustrating.
well, I think, I don't know. You're going to take this to the board, and the board's going to have the indecision, of course.
Well,
I think,
if we don't
I think
have a
we
big
all kind of
recommendation.
agree on the same
Yeah.
type of thing. I think the only arguments are whether some of those stipends should be included, basically.
Right.
So, and what numbers on top of the schedule as compared to the teachers.
Because I don't think any of the teachers are looking to, hey, let's whack these administrators $10,000 this year.
Right.
That's not what anybody's looking at. And I think you hit it on the head, Barry, when you said, let's get everybody up the best we can. And we got to look at efficiencies to do it.
Right.
We can't be hiring everybody and their brother and their cousin and whatever
Yeah.
and do that.
Right,
It doesn't
so
work.
we need an efficiency study, and do we also need a market analysis?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that what would tell us about the teachers versus the
Positions we don't need.
administration?
Big time. I think you're right, Kathy. And it doesn't have to be MSTA or anything. I wouldn't even use them. I would use an.
No, I just meant you may know
Yeah.
of organizations we
There
could
are
contact.
private organizations all
Oh,
over the
yeah.
country
Oh,
who do
yeah.
this for a living. They
yeah.
study how much doctors and hospitals make, how much teachers in schools make, how
They
much.
charge more or less than flipping.
Well, we could even look at some business models for our line item chart. I mean, I wouldn't see any problem with that. I mean, bring in the business community, get their input, say, hey, what do you think of this administrative structure? I know schools are different, but we don't even go to anybody right now that I've ever been with.
All right,
I
so
told Kathy that a while back that if she could figure out somebody to do the study, I'm pretty sure I could get business people to pay for the study if it's a reasonable amount to save the school district that money. Because I think it'd be good to get that study done by the private sector, just to not
That'd be
add any
terrific.
more burden to the district
Right.
and the newspaper.
Exactly.
Well, if that would work,
If somebody
that'd be
could
great.
find out what that is, that cost would be, I'd be glad to
Just
go
some
visit.
initial things that we talked about at the last finance committee and policy was Doug had spoke to, I think, somebody that had done Park Hill. I can't remember what the group was, but it was Park Hill, and I think Liberty recently, and it cost him about $30,000 to do a comprehensive.
well, they think that's a
Now that
reasonable-
would be certified, non-certified. I mean, that's a comprehensive salary
That's your maintenance
study.
all the way up to.
Yeah.
It's gonna run about another 15 to reorganize our organization too, because we need that. They're talking just study, they already got their organization chart done, we don't.
And it takes, 6 to 8 months to complete something like this. So,
Not the salary thing that I think Brad's talking about. I've seen them done
Yeah,
in a much shorter time period.
yeah.
Do you guys have organizations that you could recommend?
I gotta look. I was
Where's the
involved
decimal
in
point
one,
at? Is there a comma in that equation?
10 years ago. I can take a look. And it compared positions in different parts of the country.
Send me the information.
See, that might be nice to have the business community say, hey, you know, we paid for this, we're gonna look at it, and we're gonna look at it ourselves. That would be wonderful.
I'm just telling you, if this happens and they do pony up, they're gonna wanna say, they're gonna wanna voice at the
That's
table
good.
too.
Yeah.
That'll work.
So just be prepared.
Certainly they would. That's how
Yeah.
that works.
That'd be excellent.
Just like when you let your mom pay for something.
Like a haircut.
She pays for the wedding, she gets the
Meet
discussion.
tomorrow, what's the story here?
No, I don't think we should meet tomorrow. I think what I'll do is, we have a meeting on Friday, personnel and finance, and I'll tell them that we met and didn't feel comfortable making a decision about recommending the new salary schedule because we think that there needs to be a market analysis and an efficiency study done to make sure that the stipends that are being rolled in are not inflating anything too much and that the teachers' salaries are not being left behind. We feel that experts would be better to tell us that. And then we had some business members who thought that the business community might pay for that study for us. And they had some ideas of places that could get it done more quickly so we could have it done in a timely manner for contracts for next year. Does that sound like what we said?
Yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth.
As long as I'm saying what we talked about, that's important to me.
You might also mention the business community's concerned about
The levy.
the levy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's being heard.
Does that sound like what you all said? You guys, thank you very much. I know this is a difficult thing to wrestle with, and I appreciate all of your input and thoughtful words.
Thank you.